Ah, the skeptics. What would we do without them? And I can hear the collective groaning already. But this podcast wouldn't be complete if I didn't mention them. More specifically, the skeptics of the Bigfoot world. We groan a lot about them, but they really do serve a purpose in Bigfoot research. At least some of them do. They keep researchers sharp, they ask the hard questions, and they help us keep the balance. But unfortunately, they sometimes do a lot of bad things too that seem to cover up a possibly noble purpose. Because you see, there are three kinds of skeptics. We have what I call the constructive skeptics, the non-constructive skeptics, and we have the downright useless ones. Now, the constructive skeptics are the good guys, the ones that, if we want to do good research, we like to keep hanging around because they kind of help us think. Renee Holland of Finding Bigfoot is one of the best examples of this. She's a scientist who hangs out with Bigfoot researchers. She follows them through the woods, she observes the evidence, and she asks the pertinent questions. She's always polite and courteous, she keeps researchers on track, and if she can't explain the evidence away, she's a big enough person to admit it. She approaches skepticism in a very constructive and positive way. She's a shining example for all to follow. The non-constructive skeptics, however, are usually not bad people, but they aren't necessarily constructive either. Skeptics can't really focus on any of the good evidence for Bigfoot. That doesn't advance their cause. So they, especially the non-constructive skeptics, spend a lot of time focusing on the scores of inconclusive evidence photos and videos that circulate, rehashing the same old questions over and over again. If Bigfoot is real, why is there so much bad evidence? Why so many blurry photos? And they seem to believe that if they focus hard enough on inconclusive evidence, then everyone may finally understand Bigfoot doesn't exist. Inconclusive evidence does not negate all the good evidence that's been found, and it doesn't prove that Bigfoot doesn't exist. The only thing it does prove is that there are a lot of researchers working really hard on finding good evidence, albeit unsuccessfully, for now. That doesn't mean that that's all we'll ever find, and it's still a better pursuit than sitting back criticizing the ones that are trying. Another thing the non-constructive skeptics like to do is focus on hoaxers. They like to call them out by name, sometimes incite a conflict, and expose them to everyone as the snakes in the grass that they are. And as eradicating hoaxes is somewhat important in weeding out the troublemakers, that's not why skeptics like to expose them. The only reason they're doing it is because they think if they do it enough times, surely that proves Bigfoot doesn't exist, because there are just way too many people faking stuff out there. But there's a lot of evidence out there that holds water. They just don't ever seem to want to see it. And while we're talking about hoaxers, we really shouldn't be. Hoaxers want our attention really bad, and that's exactly why they shouldn't get it. As far as being constructive is concerned in either proving or disproving the existence of Bigfoot, exposing hoaxes is way down the list. Every minute spent on hoaxers is a minute wasted. There is nothing constructive that comes out of it, except giving the liars what they want, attention, and the chance to ridicule believers. There are much better ways to spend that time. But at least the non-constructive skeptics actually do something, which is much more than I can say for my next examples. The last kind of skeptics, the useless ones, the worms of the skeptic world, the ambush predators of the Bigfoot community. Not only are they not constructive, but they scoff at evidence and ignore the facts that are plentiful enough. They join Bigfoot groups and forums for no other visible reason except to attack and insult believers and witnesses. They thrive on conflict, but are afraid of direct confrontation, so the internet is their favorite forum. They're also afraid to see any real evidence, because admitting to being wrong is not an option for them. They are the cowards of all the skeptics. They are the ones that have absolutely no purpose in the Bigfoot world except to try and make themselves feel bigger by trying to make others feel smaller. Attacking people on the internet, questioning their intelligence and mental state. These skeptics from their comfy little armchairs try their best to beat believers and witnesses down. They often hide behind computer monitors, fake profile pictures, and fake names too. How incredibly chicken bleep of them. Come see me in person, guys, and we'll have a real conversation, you gutless wonders. I won't hold my breath on that. But luckily they're not all like that. Most of them just politely shake their heads at us, wondering how people can be so deluded. These people are all seeing something else. Yeah, that's it. That 8-foot-plus giant muscular hairy beast walking on two legs right in front of them must have been something else. And all these hikers, woodsmen, campers, and nature enthusiasts who know their animals in the woods like the backs of their hands are just seeing a bear or something, right? Just cases of mistaken identity. Thousands of cases of mistaken identity all over the world for centuries. People around the world who have no access to American television, who don't know each other and don't have any contact with each other, all describing a similar creature with similar traits in all those parts of the world. Faking? Really? But I wonder, why would anyone admit they saw Bigfoot in the first place? I've been laughed at numerous times for even bringing up the subject, let alone saying I actually saw one. Why would anyone allow themselves to be subjected to that kind of ridicule willingly, unless what they're saying is true? And whatever you think about the skeptics, they're not really all bad. They just tend to err on the negative side of the story. They're not very brave in going off into their own ways of thinking. They like for scientists to tell them what they're supposed to believe. They're saying Bigfoot doesn't exist until science says so. And that's fine. We don't really care. It's their choice. Just don't ridicule those who are brave enough to believe it differently. Because believers just like to err on the positive side. Even those of us who haven't had an actual sighting hope Bigfoot exists. We enjoy believing. We love living in a world with Bigfoot, a more fun and interesting world of possibilities. For skeptics to keep insisting Bigfoot doesn't exist because there isn't enough evidence is not only narrow-minded, it's like raining on a big parade. The philosopher in me just wants to know, why are you so insistent on focusing on the negative and trampling on hope? And don't tell me you're a realist, at least not until all the evidence is in. But, of course, we certainly understand there are problems with all this. We really do. We get it. We understand there are a lot of hoaxers out there. We understand the problem with so much inconclusive evidence, like a million blurry photos that overload the community circuits and hurt our credibility. And we don't like any of that either. But to you, a blurry photo is nothing, while to us it's a tiny ray of hope that the next one might be better. We're here for a reason. We're here to do the work it takes in order to prove something. We'd gladly give up the search if there was absolutely no evidence to collect. And we'd end the discussion entirely if someone hadn't reported a sighting just yesterday. So why are you here, Mr. Skeptic? If you don't believe in Bigfoot, why do you insist on being here? Seriously, I would think if you really don't believe in Bigfoot, you could think of a lot of better things to do than hang out with those that do believe. What gives? And now I'm going to go out on a limb here and say maybe you really do want to be a good, constructive skeptic. So if you do, plan on doing the work. Get your boots on, follow the researchers around, and watch what they find. Chances are they'll be glad to show you around. And plan on spending a possibly uncomfortable night. Plan on getting dirty. And plan on hearing and seeing things you've never experienced before. Because it's a different world out there than the one you're used to. It's their world, and you have to enter their world in order to find clues they exist, or to debunk them if that's your thing. But ask the pertinent questions, keep your mind open to what you're seeing and hearing. And when all is said and done and you still don't believe, that's fine. We don't care. We just see it all in a different way. That's our prerogative. But this way, at least we can't say you weren't constructive. So if you don't want to get involved in any meaningful way like I've described here, that's fine. But don't say another word. Because if you're not being constructive, there's absolutely no reason for you to be here. You serve no real purpose except distraction. Unless you want to make a real contribution to proving or disproving, get out of the way and let the rest of us do our work. This is Dorraine Fisher with the Crypto Crew around the campfire.